Hello, everyone. It's D-Man number 5, and I'm sorry we're late on this review, but today we are reviewing X-Men '97, episode 5. Remember it. I knew this was going to be a Gambit episode because the title, Remember It, that's one of Gambit's catchphrases, but damn, shit gets emotional in this episode, all right? I had to rewatch it a second time because I was like, what the fuck is happening? In a good way. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over the the stories they're having because there's two stories, not like the last one, but like A plot and B plot. I'm gonna go with the B plot first because that's kind of what it is in this episode because it's the first one, but it feels like a B plot. And then the second one I called it A plot, which is stuff that happens in Genosha. So B plot is the X-Men being interviewed at the X Mansion, and it doesn't really play a big role, but like we get to see where other characters are at right now, especially Scott and Jean. Um, with we see that Jean is trying to remember some of her memories because Madeline Pryor is gone, and Jean is now trying to figure out like who she really is. And there's this really beautiful scene where she's looking through all her memories in like the pond outside the X Mansion, and she's using the water to like reflect her memories, and it's like when it's like the scene in well, it's kind of like Moses parting the Red Sea. It's and the way it's animated is so beautiful. I love it. And then Logan comes into the scene and they have this really nice talk, and there's one line that just like that is just so beautiful, so beautifully written and said. It's when they're talking about Jean's memories, and then Logan mentions something, and then she says, "I forget how many sunsets you've seen," and then Logan says, "Yeah, but there's only one of you, Red." It was writing so good. Mm, good shit. Good shit. Then they kiss. Then they kiss. And it is awkward, obviously, because Jean and Scott are married. They had a kid. Well, kind of. And Wolverine, just says he understands. He's like, "You made a mistake. You kissed me by accident, but you're with Scott. That's how it is. Just forget about it." And then he leaves. And then later, Jean and Scott are talking about uh, Nathan, their baby, and turns out that Scott. It's very confusing. Scott and Madeline are like in a psychic link together, and Jean gets really pissed about that, and they get into a fight about how Scott still loves her, and he explains like why, but he still really loves Jean. And all right, there was a crumb on my notes, and yeah, they get into a fight, and that's kind of like where the B plot ends. It really give that part of the story gets into like more Cyclops and Jean's characters, and Scott even lashes out during his interview when they ask, "How's your child?" and he had to say goodbye to him so he could go to the future and get cured, and he's still really pissed about it, and he says some like pretty like upsetting things, but you can understand where he's coming from. Like I would. Now let's move on to the A plot, which is Magneto, Rogue, and Gambit go to New Genosha, which is now an official country, and they were called there by the council, who has Emma Frost, one member of the what's the gang called? I can't remember it, but they're a Victorian era type group, which Emma Frost is a part of, and then uh, consists of Banshee, Mara, who's from the original show. They helped Charles Xavier when he was having trouble with his psychic powers, and Mara is also an old flame of Charles. And then a senator from the UN who's been on the X-Men side the entire time. She was in the beginning of the show. I didn't really talk about her that much, but she's a good character. She's one of the good human characters who likes mutants. And Madeline Pryor is back, and she's one of the She's one of the counselors or senators or whatever. And I love that she's back because I was wondering when she was gonna be coming back. A few people who I've been talking to about the show were wondering if she was gonna come back and wanted to see what they would do with her. And I'm glad that she's here and they found something to do with her. Uh, Who else? A lot of people return this. The warlocks return, like Leech. If you don't know who the warlocks are, they're like mutants who lived underground in the sewers until they moved to Genosha, and now they can. Genosha is so beautiful. Like there's this one scene where like everyone's dancing in the street, and the music is so beautiful, and the animation of how they all dance very uniquely. It's so vibrant and colorful, and you just like want to join in. It's so inviting. I love it. Nightcrawler returns. I love Nightcrawler, especially in this show. He was written as like this pacifist monk, and if you haven't seen the episode where he's introduced, give it a watch. It is a tearjerker, and it's really heartwarming too. Him and Wolverine have a good exchange. In the end, Wolverine like discovered kind of like helps himself with something. I don't want to spoil it, but definitely go watch it. Uh, and I just want to get this out of the way. The music that they use. There's a scene later in the episode where there's like a gala for everything, where everyone's just celebrating, having a good time. They use a song that some people have heard. It's on Instagram and TikTok, Happy Nation, and the way they use it is so brilliant and so beautiful, and how they animate it with the episode. Oh my god, it's so cool. It's so cool. Uh, and it's a great episode. Magneto is asked to be king of Genosha, but he's leading the X-Men, and he can't really leave. So he asks Rogue. He'll only do it if Rogue is his queen. So he asks her, and Rogue's like, "Are you out of your damn mind?" And she just loses it. But he convinces her. So, and it's very understanding on why she would do it. But she has to go talk to Gambit because her and Gambit have a fling together. Like they have this kind of like flirting game going on there. And she goes to talk to him, and it's almost an argument, but it's a very understanding argument. Like we were always playing this game. I was your share. You were you were my Cajun, and we both just played this game, but I can't feel you, Remy. And it's so like understanding where each character is coming from. And it turns out that Magneto and Rogue had a past, and like when Rogue was learning more about her powers, she met with Magneto, and he helped her, and they had a bit of a stronger bond. But she left because he had like a lot of hatred going on, and he was in a dark place at that time. So she left, but now she wants to be with him. Then later during the gala, she dances with Magneto and they kiss, but Rogue doesn't feel anything. And she's like, you know what? I belong with Gambit. So she goes back to Gambit. But it's too late because, well, first, Cable returns. Cable showed up from time to time in the original show, but he comes back here and he runs into Madeline Pryor, who, if you know your X-Men comics, he is the son to Madeline Pryor and Scott Summers. So so he's trying to warn everyone, like, turn off the music because like something big is about to happen. And he meets with Madeline. She's like, her eyes. He goes, I'm sorry, Mom. And then he teleports back to the future. And it's so heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking. And then this giant sentinel, just like this Godzilla type sentinel, blasts blasts like open the gala, destroying everything. And like the way this action scene is done is so like intense and so dramatic. Like it makes you think like how would the original show have been done if it was done in the animation style that they were doing now? Because oh my god, like so many people are killed off. Mora and Banshee are killed. Like you see some people die in this episode, and I'm I'm scared to get into this, but so Magneto and Gambit and Rogue try to stop it, and Magneto is doing his best he can, but he's knocked down, and then right when the Sentinel is about to attack him, he uses his powers to hit it with a train and uses the train as a whip. And it's so cool. It's so creative. It's like, why didn't the movies adapt this? Like using their powers so, making their powers look cool. And it's so cool. But then Magneto's knocked down, and Rogue and Gambit go and try to help him. But um, they can't because Magneto forces him away. And by the way, Magneto is like putting a force field around all these other mutants who he's trying to help, and it's Leech, who was promised by Magneto that he would not be afraid anymore. And it's so emotional because, you know, the Sentinel's like just launching this giant laser at him and can barely hold it. And the last thing he says to him is, "Don't be afraid," in another language that I do not know, but it's if you know the language, leave it in the comments because I think I have a good guess on what it could be, but I don't want to be I don't want to be incorrect about it and get people offended. And it's really emotional. And Magneto dies. He dies. And now I'm wondering who the fuck's gonna lead the X-Men now? Because now the guy that Charles trusted his whole thing on is dead now. And it kind of made me think Magneto's not the bad guy. He's really not, actually. It took me to see him actually die to believe that. And then, Rogue gets all pissed and she's about to go take out the Giant Sentinel, but Gambit stops her, and he's like, "Okay." Gambit is so cool in this episode. He's like, "I'll raise your bet," and he's like charging up his stick, and he's about to go knock it out. And then right when he's about to, the Giant Sentinel stabs him in the abdomen. I literally just went like at my TV. I was like, "Oh no 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 no!" And then they said, "Omega level threat eliminated." And then Gambit just goes, "Name's Gambit. Remember it." I went, "That's why the episode's called that." Fuck. And he charges up the spike that stabbed him, and it's connected to the Sentinel, and he blows it up. He blows it up. What a hero. And Rogue goes down to see him, and she holds him in his arms, and he's like burning. He's probably dead. And like she's crying. She goes, Remy, I can't feel you. And then the episode ends. I'm like, oh my god. And later before that, they cut back to the X Mansion where everyone's watching, and like it's usually when something like this happens, characters usually go like, my god, or like, oh my god. But the way Beast said it, like the way his voice actor delivered that line, it's so emotional. And he just goes, oh my god. Yeah, voice acting in the show, top tier, like French kiss. But yeah, my thoughts on this episode: real gut wrencher, really emotional, really action packed, and I can't wait for the next one. I love how good this show is getting, each episode by each episode. It's different, it's new, and it's great. My review of Invincible season 2 is coming out soon. I'm rewatching all of season 2 because I didn't really do what I did for what I'm doing for X-Men because the whole season didn't come out. So I'm rewatching all of season 2, and my review will come out probably next week or maybe before the weekend, depending on how long it takes me to finish the show. But I will be reviewing it. Do not worry. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.